Oh my God. All right. Hey, welcome to IoT Coffee Talk, everyone.
Outstanding.
You know what that was?
Is that Van Halen?
Yes.
What song was
How
it?
did you know? It's actually a pretty.
It kind of sounded, I wasn't sure, like best of both worlds, but I wasn't sure.
No, it's a song called Black and Blue on the OU812 album.
Oh, I love that song.
Very lost song. And a lot of people don't know it, but that was a really interesting album because that followed 5150, and that was like the second Sammy Hagar or the Ben Hagar album. And Eddie really started to, I guess, reinvent. That was like where his reinvention post David Lee Roth really, started to play out, I think. And he did some really great blue stuff. And I think it's hilarious when people go, "Oh, Eddie Van Halen, he just like does all this fast stuff and he has no dynamics and no feel." That's like, okay, anyone who says that,
What people say that.
doesn't know how to play, has never played before. Eddie had the ultimate dynamics. I mean, the dude could play blues like a madman. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I mean, but anyways,
Outstanding.
Eruption was the anthem of my youth, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
it was.
Remember, no one knew how to do it. He'd turn his back on the audience, and we didn't have the internet back then. So one of my friends figured it out. I think he's in 8th grade or freshman year of high school.
I figured that out. Unless
I totally remember that. That was such a big moment.
That was huge. So you guys may laugh at this. You know who I went to high school with? Tom Morello.
Oh,
No way.
So Tom Morello was 2 years ahead of us. He had a band called Electric Sheep. I was in a band called Savage. And we knew Tom and another guy who was in Tom's band, a guy named Adam Jones, who's the guitarist for Tool.
Oh, no way.
Both Libertyville High School, this northern suburb, not quite the cool rich kids of Lake Forest, but kind of the poor kids in the suburb a couple over. That was that had a lot of musicians come out of that school.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
Hey, Eric, before we start, I want to send my condolences to you for your school getting its butt kicked.
Oh,
about that.
Yeah, thanks. It was
no, that was pretty bad.
It was fun to get to the final, but at the end of that first half, I'm sitting with my buddy who's the top guy at Databricks, right? Fraternity brother. Yeah. Who's kind of shaking our heads, and we kind of knew if we don't come out in the second half and do something, we're going to get steamrolled, which is what happened.
Yeah.
But hey, we got there. You got there.
That's great.
Thanks, though.
That's awesome. Most people never get there, so it's a good thing.
Yep.
Yeah.
We're used to it.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So we got to do our disclaimer. So, hey, everyone, thanks for joining. Remember, take us seriously at your own risk. You own it, okay? That is your risk. And we're warning you right now, don't listen to us. Even though you're listening to us, don't listen to us.
Hey, whatever you do, don't listen to Leonard. He's wrong.
Yeah, all the time.
Listen to us.
Except about Eddie Van Halen, you were right.
Yeah, that's true.
So
where all the learning happens.
Even a blind squirrel finds a nut now and then.
That's right.
Leonard.
Every once in a while. Yeah.
That was a deaf squirrel, but okay, if it's blind.
No, it's blind.
Right, I'm wrong.
Yeah, see?
You guys are right. Yeah.
That was what my dad would tell me. Yeah. Anytime I thought I did something great, he's like, even a blind squirrel finds a nut now and then. You're not that
great. That's really mean. Anyway, yeah, we're just having fun, and we hope you enjoy the show. As usual, we have no idea what we're going to be talking about, but I'm sure it's going to be interesting. So hang out until the end. And remember, we do this for the love of the children. Okay. Remember, we gather here every week on a consistent basis for our charity, which is Elevate Our Kids at www.elevateourkids.org. And we are trying to help kids K through 12 bridge the digital divide for them so that they can partake in all this digital stuff that the rest of us enjoy. Anyway, we're trying to be
exactly,
folks.
We are. Get laptops to those kids so they can go to school from home if they have to. Get internet to those families who don't have internet at their house so their kids can connect.
Yeah. Mommy and daddy don't have to park out in front of the school to get Wi-Fi, in the parking lot.
But if that's what you have to do, that's what you have to do.
They do. Yeah.
Yeah. Certainly.
Help that situation.
Certainly. I know we've talked about that before. Definitely. Lots of us been, working with local school districts and stuff for our kids. And I certainly remember getting Wi-Fi access points put on the outside of the high school so that families could park, outside, and the kids could do, I've seen school buses do the same kind of thing as well. Whatever it takes, for sure. So what's news this week? What's going on in IoT and AI and edge, and even if this, then that, for those of you who are real?
And that.
This and that.
I guess the big news came out of Meta, right, with Llama 3.
Mm-hmm.
So that was a big deal.
Yeah.
Everybody and their siblings coming out saying, "Hey, we are Llama 3 optimized on our hardware." So, yeah,
whatever that means. Is that like when Sun Microsystems made Java chips so that it would run the bytecode natively in the chips?
I remember that.
Remember that stuff?
McNeely.
I guess that's what that means. So yeah,
optimized.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Oh well, I don't blame them. What a time that.
I think this thing about Llama 3 is that it's much smaller now. So it's gotten a lot smaller than Llama 2. I think it's like 10x smaller. So you're going to see it. I think there was the demo Mark Zuckerberg had using his Ray-Ban glasses, like multimodal capabilities of this thing, where you could look at a piece of clothing and say, like, what are the right set of pants I can wear with this shirt? And it would be able to pretty quickly give him feedback that, that shirt was ugly or whatever. Pretty cool.
Game changer. That's awesome.
Game changer.
That is. Well,
that is it.
We definitely need smaller language models, don't we, folks?
Yes.
Yeah.
That you can run on your phone.
Yes.
But that is sort of the big deal at the moment is small language models, right? SLMs or whatever. You're hearing more and more about them, right?
As Pete would probably say, let's get small.
Yeah,
that's right. Let's get small. TLMs, tiny language models.
Yeah, tiny language model.
Edge
better.
LLM.
There you go.
Yeah.
I'm calling you from the TinyML Summit. Speaking of
outstanding.
There you go.
Yeah, so I saw you on stage, and it's weird to have just a photo of you floating in front of us.
I know. It was a bit of a last minute call up, but I'm glad that worked out.
Oh,
where is your TinyML event taking place, Pete?
Oh, so we're in beautiful Burlingame, California.
Okay.
In Burlingame, and got a few hundred people here. Got some really cool demos, and we had day one was a lot of academic kind of presentations, pretty nerdy stuff, symposium, and now we're doing some more panels and kind of commercial examples of people deploying small form factor AI stuff. So it's pretty cool. Pretty cool to see state of the art and meet some people and all that good stuff.
Can TinyML be used by regular people, regular engineers that aren't data scientists?
Yeah, for sure. There's all kinds of things going on where, especially in the academic world, where there's lots of models and data sets available, and Arduinos and Raspberry Pis and all kinds of platforms. So it's not all commercialized. There's a lot of academic work being done.
Yeah.
But, and like sensors, a lot of cool vision sensors here, audio sensors. So some of the traditional anomaly detection stuff, but also, a lot of discussion around, like we were saying, is like, how do we bring transformer models and GenAI capabilities into smaller form factor things. Still MPUs and things like that. But it's getting there.
Yeah.
I've seen some cool use cases in Rail for bridge stuff with TinyML. So, like, they see vibration sensors. So, today what they do is they got to send trucks out to inspect bridges all the time. But you can now collect all this data with TinyML and you can tell, hey, this was a minor hit. You don't need to inspect it, or this is something major. And, please send a truck out now type of stuff.
Yeah.
So you're a bridge strike? You mean like a truck or somebody hit the bridge that a train's going to be using? Okay.
Yeah, or a train itself, right? Sometimes it's carrying, these things get hit all the time. So,
wow.
So the integrity of these bridges is
also, I've seen track temperature. So, in climates where there's extreme heat, the temperature of the rails can impact the safety. We typically slow trains down as it gets hotter. Because of the expansion of the tracks. And so by using sensors, you can actually more precisely determine what exactly the risk is. I mean, maybe you don't have to slow the trains down as much.
Right. So hotbox detection, right? Which happens when the axles overheat. We can go back to what happened.
Temperature sensing, vibration sensing. I even saw someone was doing like a track inspection, like it would actually go along the rails visually looking for defects in the rails. Instead of having a person, just imagine, fun job, walking the tracks. Send a robot on rails down there and take a look at everything.
The rail space is fascinating, the technology they have and some of the advancements, but it's you're inspecting some real old school infrastructure there.
Yeah.
Well, look, Ma, I got a job with the railroad.
Yeah.
I'm an engineer. I'm hanging out the back of the
back of the caboose.
Yeah.
The red caboose.
Choo-choo engineer. We call it a choo-choo engineer.
I'm holding the lantern. Hanging out the back.
The history of that stuff is fascinating when you get into it.
GE was doing a lot in this area. We actually used to say that these are data center on tracks.
Everything in the data center.
GE made that stuff. GE made engines, right? They made the front of the train, the front of the choo-choo. Yeah.
But it's interesting. I popped up on Monday evening at the show to say hello to Pete, and I looked a little bit in the show floor, and there was one guy, one company that was doing some of those systems where you actually do not need sensors. They look, for example, on electrical engines, they look at the current and the voltage things, and they can do predictions all around that, which is some of the things that GE was doing in their big diesel engine for the
current measurement
heating plugs. So it's actually interesting in a retrofit environment where you cannot necessarily put sensors, but you can actually look at the current consumption or the flow and do things about it. So I had an example of one of those power tools you use to drill where there is a torque limiter, mechanical. So they replace that by just a little box, and it actually just measures the current, and it does the same things. Pretty cool.
Wow.
Yeah, for like brownfield deployment. We also saw someone with a spectrometer sensor that was detecting the ripeness of fruit. So there's like those two types of fruit: the fruit that ripens before you pick it, and the fruit that ripens after you pick it. But you can use some spectrum analysis, like non-invasive detection of fruit freshness. Pretty cool.
That is cool.
Hey, Pete, I got a question for you, man. So, what do you see happening? In terms of collaborations between the TinyML community and the sort of this emerging small language model community, or effort.
Yeah.
Is there any convergence there?
There is actually. I mean, we have folks from Meta here. We have someone from NVIDIA today on the panel. There's a lot of discussion and a lot of cross-pollination on. When we say tiny, it's not necessarily just MCUs. It's just kind of resource-constrained AI, basically. So I think we're going to start to see some really interesting deployments there. But we've had Meta here, we've had Intel here, we've had NVIDIA here. So a lot of the folks in kind of the bigger AI have also been sort of engaging more and do this stuff. So yeah, definitely going to start to see some. And it's interesting, you mentioned the phone and the PC space, even though this is not really about phones and PCs, but as we know, when those chips start deploying in scale, that drives the price down and creates developers that can then do more kind of IoT and vertical market things with those chips. Yeah. So I think we're going to see some offshoots. I think the biggest benefit of AI PC will be kind of low cost NPU chips with developers for these other types of markets. So we'll see.
Yeah, because the approaches for TinyML are compressing or reducing the size of models, and it is very similar to what they're trying to do at the LLM level, right? They're pruning, quantizing, and all this stuff. So that's why I was curious: is there like sort of this cross pollination of ideas? From this macro level down to this.
Very similar techniques. Like we're working with ML Commons on a lot of the perf stuff, a lot of the benchmarks.
Oh, really?
It's very similar work, whether it's, the small language models versus ultra tiny. I was talking to someone at dinner last night, could do like 5 kilobyte models. That's obviously pretty extreme, but a lot of commonality in the approach and techniques. It's just a matter of what's the use case and like what's the silicon that we need to run it on. So, but it's all in that resource constrained thing. When you run AI in the cloud or using it as a service, obviously that's a kind of a different dynamic. As soon as you get outside the data center to something that's like battery powered or has some sort of constraints like that, a lot of the techniques are very similar. So
that's one observation I found interesting in this show is the whole spectrum. So there's the guys doing the hardware and the chips on demand and the new neuromorphic type of architecture. But you also have I saw a portion of a talk where they actually had a platform where for the training of the model you use floating points, but for the inference of the model they have a way to do computation at the binary level, so it's much more effective and it requires less resources. So it's really the whole spectrum.
Right.
That's why.
You don't need GPUs at the edge to run dynamic inferencing. You can just use very constrained devices. And to me, AI is the killer app for using edge. Everyone's been talking edge, but now there's a lot of I've seen interest in edge skyrocket in the last 6 months just because of AI.
Wow.
And there's a lot of acceleration. There's all the ARM acceleration cores, but also like NXP has their own AI acceleration that they're showing off here. And so I think the semiconductor folks are innovating in the edge space to figure out how to do more with less, basically.
Smaller.
I even saw Sony over there. Sony was there because they
have some cool stuff. Sony's got
they're bringing some intelligence in the imaging sensor.
They're kind of going from this. It's kind of an AI powered vision sensor. They actually deployed it at 7-Eleven in Japan. And so when you look at print posters in the 7-Eleven, there's a sensor, an image sensor that they can tell how many people saw that poster, that advertisement, and how long did they stare at it. And so they're like basically putting telemetry on like real world advertising using a vision sensor to detect like how many impressions that they're getting in the real world.
Wow. The number one store in Japan. 7-Eleven.
7-Eleven in Japan is awesome.
Absolutely. They dominate.
Yes. Lawson and 7-Eleven. Those are the two biggies.
For the anecdotes, I was trying to be the smartass with the young kids at the Sony show. I say, "Oh, my first digital camera was a Sony with a diskette," and the guy said, "Oh, it was the Mavica." I said, "Oh, goddamn, this young guy knows about it."
Wow.
I was
so now Sony is shrinking down their Walkman even more using this new tiny stuff. Is that what we're getting?
There you go.
We didn't talk about the Walkman.
Maybe not the Walkman.
It's even smaller than the cassette.
Yeah, probably.
I want to go back to back to several minutes. Eric said something about bridge strike, and to differentiate between standard IoT and sensors and using AI out there at the edge. A lot of people over time, and it's better than nothing, is the bridge was hit, the bridge was not hit, and now trying to put some of that analytics or that AI right there there's probably a million shades of gray and nuance to that, because it's not a 1 or a 0. It's not even, it's a different type of threshold. It's it's pretty crazy.
It is. It's like hot dog, not hot dog. from the old Silicon Valley show, right?
Classic, yes.
Yes,
Good
but
callback,
it's
good
bridge,
callback there.
bridge strike not hit. Is it serious? Is it not? I mean, it's a company called Pensy Digital we work with. That's they're rail experts, but we can tie these hardware and TinyML solutions together into a larger ecosystem. I think that's the movement we're going to see over the next decade, big time.
Wow, that is so cool. And then when I think of GE engines for rail, I'm always thinking about all my friends in France, since I spent so much time working with SNCF, and how they would make fun of any kind of train in the United States that wasn't a TGV. Right. They'd be on the whiteboard, they're drawing a picture. Oh, here's your typical American train, and it looks like your classic, choo-choo train.
19th century. And
Trans Grand Vitesse, right?
That's right. Oh my God.
Well, yeah, the difference is that the tracks can't handle the speed because we built them so much earlier, right?
Yeah.
So speaking of that, I saw a blurb that we're finally really going to build a high-speed link between LA and Las Vegas.
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah.
And I thought it said 100. It didn't seem very fast to me. I don't know if I said 124 miles per hour or something like that. It did not seem TGV or
twice highway speed. It's not bad.
Yeah, but to your point, Rob, and there's been a lot of discussion and debate in France. It's a very difficult business model because the cost of the infrastructure to sustain those speed is enormous. And actually, at some point, what the French government did is that they actually separated the infrastructure kind of operations from the exploitation of the infrastructure to try to balance the books, if you want, because they never made a franc or euro.
Okay.
With the TGV.
Yeah. Well, if they didn't make any francs, they certainly didn't make any euros, because the value of that money had just plummeted once we had to switch to the euro. I used to hear that a lot.
It is unfortunately the kind of initiative that you have to be government funded, because
this is a public service, I guess.
It's hard to make that up.
It goes to intelligent infrastructure, right? How do you build faster trains? How do you build next generation 911 systems, right? It's really a money and a politics problem more than a technology problem.
How does Boeing build aircraft that is safe?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, as I said,
that's a hot question. That's a hot question these days.
It is a hot question,
It was all
processes.
It was all McDonnell Douglas. We ball planes.
Absolutely. All right. So this week on Monday was Earth Day, and everybody's saying Happy Earth Day. And I just felt negative, and I had to write a piece on LinkedIn about how we kind of screwed the pooch on the whole Earth Day thing.
Mm-hmm.
And this goes back to this AI training that we're doing, because it seems like every week I read about another mega data center sucking the earth dry of the water and electricity that should be for people, and it's not so good. And I'm a capitalist, so I don't want to come off and say, well, sadly it's the profit motive, and people care more about money than the environment. But maybe they do care more about money in the short term. What's right in front of them? We're going to get rich on this generative AI craze. What do you guys think about all this? What's the solution, or is there a solution?
I think it's becoming more efficient. Like, let's start measuring the cost of this. I am seeing, and I can't name them, big companies that are focusing on what's my energy usage, and I am really committed to carbon neutral, but I now need to measure it. And I think we've got to measure this stuff and be honest with ourselves. And hey, there's more efficient ways to do this. Let's not be lazy and just throw big compute in the cloud and just use, I've been told in the past that cloud compute is ubiquitous. So you don't have to be efficient. And as a computer scientist, I've always fought against that.
Yeah,
you need to be efficient.
You mean that? I agree. You mean that they are being efficient, but you mean financially more efficient, right? More optimized financially for them to get more revenues, and
it's got to be both, right? But there's,
I think that's
reduce. If you reduce energy usage. Yeah. If you reduce energy usage in the key hours, and then that's financially beneficial to you as well. but it's also good for, not burning resources that we really shouldn't be burning.
Actually, now I'm reading a book that I got recently, written by Varoufakis, who used to be like a prime minister from Greece. And he mentions that the capitalism is dead. And now the new era is about techno-feudalism. So in the Middle East.
I read a Wired article on that. How is that a really good book? Because I'm very interested in that book.
I just started yesterday. So,
okay.
But yeah, it looks like really, really good. So he explains from his previous book talking about capitalism for everyone. So he's now saying, okay, so when I brought this book, the capitalism book, I realized that maybe capitalism was over. So he just made a research on what is coming, and basically he's on the point, right? So all of this, so we are under.
We're all serfs. We're all serfs because we're giving our time to enrich these big companies.
Yeah, and basically they know better than your family know you, right? Amazon, Google, everyone.
So are you saying that? You're saying a leader from Greece has declared that capitalism is dead? Why am I not surprised?
Well, they benefited a little bit.
Paying taxes
when they joined the European Union. But
I hear you.
I heard paying taxes is dead. That's what I heard.
Yeah, we don't pay taxes in Greece. Yeah. Who wants to do that?
Yeah. Well, these days there are folks that, they're almost like religious about technology, right? It's almost like the new god. And when you go to some of these shows, vendor shows in particular, you hear folks really they're like evangelizing technology, saying that it's going to save the world, it's going to do all this stuff. It's almost like a neo messiah. And one of the things that you hear quite often is this idea of the one man $1 trillion company, or one person $1 trillion company, and how this is some sort of benchmark for what we're doing with technology and technological progression and societal progression, right? That's really what it connotes. Is like, why would we celebrate something like that? And what does it mean for one person to be $1 trillion company or $1 trillion entity? And why is that something for us to celebrate? Because then under the same breath, they talk about democratization of XYZ through technology. And so, it's sad and it's crazy.
Heavy stuff.
Quite honestly, it is.
Heavy stuff.
Yeah, as a technologist too, you feel almost guilty, right? Like, look, in the early 90s, the internet starts going, right? And we're all excited. But what have we done with it? We did a lot of great things early, I think. And now we're spreading potential falsehoods and social media, and everyone's getting angry at one another. I'm like, oh my gosh, like we're going through this period of, we've used this great technology and now we're hurting ourselves with it. Let's get back to doing good with it, right? So I've been frustrated by this for years, though.
Yeah, but I think it's hitting a fever pitch at the moment, and there's this lack of focus on solving problems, which would force you to ground yourself, right?
Yep.
In the way you think about technology, and it's just focus on the speculative aspect of technology investment. Right. There's all this meme mentality in terms of how you look at technology, and in positioning yourselves or figuring out what your stance is in this techno religious dialogue that's happening, and on the investment side, right? And so it's
because we celebrate mega billionaires, and I think it's the wrong thing to celebrate.
Really weird. It's like, why are you celebrating that?
I think some of the best folks that are doing the most interesting things are people you've never heard of. Right, because they don't have to fill their egos. They're focused on actually doing something really good with a team of people, and look, I tell my boys this. I said, don't focus on these people. Focus on people that you've never heard of, or just do something that gives back, right? Create cool stuff, create cool music, do something that enriches people as opposed to just enriches yourself.
Yeah, absolutely.
But Leonard, you nailing it. I mean, I've you almost feel guilty sometimes being in this industry, but I'm very excited, a techno nerd. I love that stuff. I mean, Rob, you obviously are that same person too, all of us here, but the greed and the glut of it makes me a little bit.
Yeah. Well, I don't think we have to feel guilty. I mean, as long as we're doing good and we know that we're doing good and we have a clear conscience, there's a lot to feel good about. I think what's really toxic is, how people talk about technology and the future, especially this vision of an AI future, where ultimately you're automating something to the level where one person will be $1 trillion entity in today's dollars, right? Obviously, if this happens in 5 years, you have to adjust for, inflation.
I don't think a one-person $1 trillion company, they'd have to use a lot of AI, right?
Yeah,
I mean, come on.
But then you're right. I mean, that mentality's been around
for a lot of oil.
It's a
lot of oil.
At the end of the day, again, the flow is, the root cause is on the fact that, we said earlier, the most common measurement of success is profit. Mm-hmm. And so if you have something like technology that allows you to accelerate significantly, people are going to go for it. So that's where the reflection should be. And that's the thing which, the only thing I'm hopeful is, we can tell the new generation. That's why I say more and more to the new generation, you have to get engaged into politics, into government, to change those metrics. Because if we don't change those metrics, nothing's going to change.
Wait. I want to correct you. It's not about profit anymore, and that's the problem. It's about valuation.
Yeah.
Valuation is a tool for profit.
I actually think
valuation is a tool for profit.
Profit is good. Profit is good because it is a measure of viability. The problem is we have a bunch of companies that are not viable that are being, valued.
Okay, so
stratosphere. I mean, what's this concept of a unicorn where a company has made no profit, has not proven viability, yet has $1 trillion or $1 billion or whatever, $1 gajillion dollar valuation? That's the problem. I mean, I would say to these companies, make a friggin' profit. Prove that you're actually valuable and worth this ridiculous valuation someone's assigned you.
Yeah. Well, it's the old airplane.
It's a marketer in the
Ponzi scheme, right?
Yeah.
Let's get people on the airplane. Let's pump up, and just as long as you can get out as long as you're not a leaf node, then you're going to make money.
Yeah.
It's called venture capitalism. It's what it is.
Yeah, I mean, look at the crypto thing. Crypto is now at 67. But you know what? It's so hilarious to listen to these guys talk about, oh, well, why is it up today? Why is it down today? They try to come up with all these reasons, but then it reacts in a completely, random way. There's only one thing that's consistent. The whales decided to take profit.
Yeah, but that's speculation overall. I mean, Bitcoin is no different than gold. It's speculation. So it goes up because it's a store of value.
It's not. It's worse than gold. Gold, at least you could do something with it.
It's just, but it's
Wall Street, right?
That's somebody else's money.
No, that's actually true because gold is now used as a precious metal into technology. But in the past, it was just used as a basic store of value. And that's what Bitcoin is. So many people have put money in Bitcoin that nobody can sell it all now. Same with gold. So it's the kind of a similar analogy there. But you're right. It's not profit.
Okay, but why was gold precious? Because it has some very unique properties as well.
It's shiny.
Shiny. Doesn't rust. Right. Doesn't grow.
It's shiny.
It's the rarity of it.
Well,
and the same thing with Bitcoin. It's limited. It's a store of value. People have put money in it.
Tulips used to be a big thing.
Right, but
tulips were a big thing, right?
How is that value assigned? It's not because it's rare. It's because it has these characteristics that are valuable. right? It's a great conductor. I mean, later on that we found out.
Conceptually, I'm not sure that initially we use gold to anchor money on that. It was because of the rarity, and that was something you can refer to. Anyway, but you're right. My phrasing was wrong. It's not really the profit. It's much more the greed or the objective or accumulation of wealth, if you want. That's there. Because if you say it's on speculation, profit is fine. Yeah, look at McDonald's, okay? They do 30, 32, 35% profit margin, and they're complaining about increasing the minimum wage.
Yeah.
Sorry. So,
and they make great ice cream machines with Taylor. But we don't want to go there. Tie back to IoT and
machines don't work. Most machines do not work.
how can we?
They're made not to work. They're made not to work.
Intelligent assets.
Yeah, fix the.
Intelligent assets.
Yeah, intelligent assets. Well, that's all about greed right there. If you look in the McDonald's Taylor story, that's all about two companies colluding.
Yeah, that's a really Eric's talking about. Someone should go when you have some a few free hours. Google about
it's interesting
McDonald's ice cream machines and the whole backstory there. But there's a reason why they're never working.
Yeah. And there was some small company that said, "Hey, I created a mobile app in a way to get the codes off the machines," and then they fought with McDonald's because they kind of ruined their scam there.
Wow,
Dirty laundry
conspiracies in the underbelly.
Exactly.
So you didn't,
Oak Brook, Illinois.
You didn't
Holy
think
Mulder and Scully! Oh my gosh!
you didn't think about that when you were doing vending machines, Rob, right? You didn't think about
Yeah, we weren't that smart.
You missed something, man.
Oh my gosh. I'm just a simple caveman when it comes to all this technology
out there.
Exactly. Oh man. Wow. Good stuff. And me being a simple caveman with technology and IoT, I've always stuck with that first premise for me for IoT was it's inspection. It's the Internet of inspection. That's where that remote monitoring, there's that whole notion, sometimes why might people not embark on an IoT journey or whatever? And they think it's so expensive or it's going to be years, 5-10 years before we get our return on investment and all that stuff. And I'm just here to tell everybody that's baloney. That's, that's a bunch of malarkey. Anyway.
Get rid of the clipboard and the truck and the pen, right? There's a lot of cost in that.
As soon as you deploy it and and it's about inspection, instantaneous return on value. It's probably the fastest return on value of any technology I can think of. Because you went from rolling trucks and people fly, I've said this before. I remember not early on when I invented IoT, but later when the rest of you guys.
You and Bob Dole.
Yeah, what Bob Dole believes. And so later on, when you guys finally got involved in IoT, let's just say last decade, 2010 or later, and it was getting hot for all you young whippersnappers out there. It was just like, hey guys, I read an article early on, and it was about Shell oil in Africa, and it was the first kind of real Forrest Gump light bulb for me that this doesn't have to be complicated. It doesn't have to be AI. It showed how Shell oil was saving 10 million a year because they were literally flying people to Nigeria to go do all this inspection of all these oil rigs and things going on there. And with the magic of IoT, little sensors, little devices, this wireless thing that somebody, Marconi, invented, all of a sudden, it got dirt cheap and it got real time. And it's not a guy flying, multiple people flying to Nigeria and doing all these inspections, writing the clipboard, fly home, go back and type it into your system of record, whatever that is, SAP, whatever. All of a sudden, it was like, no, we're bypassing that whole thing. And you know it all the time, not just periodically, like when a human flies there.
Yep.
That for me was IoT in a nutshell. And that for me was value, instant value, not 10 years from now value, but tomorrow value.
Yeah, and here's the problem. You had all these consultants going around, and in the early days, I have to count myself in this because I was digesting a lot of the hype and the nonsense early on. They tried to sell you actually maybe the 10% of the value, which is really, really difficult to achieve and requires you to be at level 5 maturity, right? I mean, this really ridiculous vision of what IoT is. And I think you're absolutely right, Rob. 80% of the value is just knowing, and then the rest of it is just whatever. And so, this is why I think IoT, these forecasts were just so off, because even people thought, hey, all this data is going to go to the cloud and you're going to crunch it and all this crap's going to happen and we're going to save the freaking world. It's like, no, not really, because all of that is actually a small portion of the overall business value that you get. And you're like spot on, dude. And
nailed it. I mean,
now I know why you say that all the time.
The money went to the services people, right? And they're all building a custom dashboard, and then they keep building and building and building for that last 10 or 20%, right? So millions of dollars go out the door to feed these large consulting companies, and it's got to stop. We're never going to get to where we need to be by focusing on that last 20%. Get the basics done.
Well, it's happening with generative AI, actually probably less so, because I don't think it's that easy for any of these GSIs or anybody to sell a POC. It's probably really tough. And so, now you're hearing murmurings around, oh, where's the money? Do you know what I'm saying? Money off of this stuff. It's the same.
But we've had a decade of failure already in IoT. Let's be honest. I mean, it's been mostly failure, 70+%. I would say. But
the value is probably down at the level that working at. TinyML and the friggin' perception AI and the cognitive AI. Down in the trenches, not up in the data center.
And that stuff is fantastic, but just do the basics first, right? Connect the thing and alert on anomalies, right? Connect and just, instead of having to drive a truck and go to this place, now at least know the status of the thing, right? It's as basic as that, and there's so much value in that, and we're making it overly complex.
I think companies were afraid to come out and say, we're here to eliminate your truck rolls, because it didn't sound sexy enough for VCs. If you didn't have AI or machine learning, or you didn't have some cool fancy something, we've got some digital twins of that thing. If you didn't have that, all of a sudden it's like, well, it's not sexy, so forget it.
We just need to create a digital twin of the ice cream machine at McDonald's.
Exactly. Well, that changes everything.
Yeah, I don't need an exact replica digitally of every aspect of that physical device. I need the 5 to 10 attributes that I really want to monitor, and the rest of it is noise.
Absolutely. So remember, folks, kids, this is your Uncle Rob here. I've said it a million times. It's just like anything that goes from a manual process to an automated process. This is no different. There was a human being doing the thing with their eyeballs, looking at a gauge, taking a reading, and they wrote it down on paper. They may have used something that you millennials and Gen Zs never heard of. It's called cursive writing. It's kind of like,
that handwriting
with a pencil.
With a pencil, cursive writing, and they may have even used a stick shift vehicle to get there, which means you guys are out of the game totally. That is what the world was doing, and that was considered just fine. That's what inspection is, and that's what everybody has to do on all of these things. Every company in the world has some portion of their workforce that is inspecting things, looking at things to make sure everything's running okay. And the government as well, and the military. Everybody's inspecting stuff. I'm on a submarine, and people are walking around taking logs. And you're right, they're inspecting bridges, train tracks, all this critical infrastructure.
Pipes.
Without dragging us back to the previous conversation, but it's exactly what Leonard said. That's not what makes the crazy valuation. So, and that's why I usually tell to people, when you look at the IoT or industrial use cases, you really have two major categories. You have a whole set of businesses where it's really optimization, because you're not fundamentally changing what we're doing. Oil and gas, we're still pumping oil and gas. Mining, we're still mining goods. But for all these, there are all these use cases of remote monitoring that you can implement that will optimize them and make them better, lower carbon footprint, all this kind of stuff. And then you have a few rare cases of really true digital transformation, because the digital transformation is the thing I hate the most. It's a most awful term, but you have some use case in smart cities because there is nothing in cars. I would agree that there is a real change because now it's become kind of software-defined cars. But
you're not rolling up the windows anymore.
Exactly.
You like go, yeah.
Most of the use cases are in this bucket of, how can I make my operation better and maybe gain 10-15%? But if I gain 10-15%, I'm not a unicorn. So this is why most people are focused on the AI crap, because if you say AI in IoT, you think, big return, big unicorn, big valuation. So that's the flow in the system, understanding what is the application.
I think going back to, I was going to say back to Eric and Rob's point on Earth Day and measuring power and consumption. We're talking about measuring things. I mean, it'd be great to be able to measure the energy consumed or water consumed for these AI workloads. And so people can really understand like what resources are being used for each query that they're doing. Sort of like that. Was it the Energy Star? That thing you get on the fridge, it says how many dollars per day it costs to run the fridge.
That would be actually a cool app to have, just a very simple app on top of ChatGPT that
all right, Marc.
And displays you in the corner the amount of energy you've consumed during the session.
Yeah, it sounds like a Chrome extension or something.
Barcelona's calling.
Exactly what I'm thinking, Chrome extension or something like that.
All right,
but remember one thing, we were talking some minutes ago about, this is valuable, but is it profitable? Okay, so on IoT, we help to make money or we help to save money. So connecting everything, it's really something profitable or not? So I'm not sure if connecting everything.
The devil is in the details, but the examples that Rob gave, which is a very classic one, which is you have to send people to correct something. If you see it from remote, you can optimize that. So obviously it has to be business driven. But I don't think there's a lot of things that are manually done for which you can put sensors, where if you actually have this remote visibility, you don't save some form of.
There's a lot that's going on in energy because of just look at an HVAC company, right? We've squeezed so much as we can out of this efficiency piece, and they have to do more, right? We have to get to variable speed motors. We have to do these things to be able to reduce the energy consumption of these large devices that are everywhere in every building all over the world, right? So there's a must. It's profitable, but we must do it.
A lot of that is physical too.
Gets into a plateau, right? Efficiency gets into a plateau. So at some point they will say, why I need to pay that amount of money every month if my system is optimized? Why? Predictive maintenance? Maybe there should be a plan for maintenance.
If you optimize
for this,
right? You don't keep the thing running. You don't keep the refrigerator running all the time. There's ways to optimize by doing IoT and controlling this and reducing the amount of energy that we draw on these devices. But it's a yin and yang, right? The more that we deploy this stuff, the more that we control it. We got to prove that we're saving energy, we're saving money somewhere.
So all that aside, that initial question though, is it profitable, that Marc was asking? We connect our things, and now we got real-time stuff, Internet of Inspection. We're not having to have people go out there. So did you have savings? So let's cut to the really ugly chase really quickly. You look at the fully loaded cost of the employee or employees that are going off and doing that inspection. You look at the cost of the vehicles, the fuel, all that stuff. And then you say, okay, I'm replacing them with sensors and wireless. Is that cheaper, than this human? I mean, I know no one likes to talk about this stuff because it's like, oh yeah, we're killing jobs. It's kind of what technology does, doesn't it?
We're moving jobs to different areas.
That's how you do the calculation. Is you're replacing a human being? It's just a lot of people are afraid to come out and say it.
Or you're enabling them and allowing them to do more, because you know what, you have more data points that you have, or things that, or whatever, perception points that you have to manage, more assets that become more visible that have to be monitored. Actually, don't necessarily think it's the case that technology outright eliminates jobs. It actually, there's so much to be done in terms of improvement. It just augments folks. Like even with GenAI, it allows you to generate immense amounts of crap. I don't think it eliminates jobs. It empowers people to generate more crap that nobody's going to read.
But you're no longer in a field hoeing, right? You've got a tractor for this, right? It's progress, and it's going.
You're not doing it yourself.
Right.
From you to a horse to John Deere.
You're just tearing down
automated robot, John Deere robots.
Yeah, see and spray, baby. You know what? But to your point, Leonard, the way you couch this is, and we've talked about this before, there are so many industries right now that are starving for employees to do the jobs that are out there. Manufacturing is starving to death. No one wants to work in a factory. Agriculture is starving to death. No one wants to work on the farm anymore. Nurses all quit after they got dissed during COVID. Teachers have been quitting it by the hundreds of thousands. There's so many fields that they actually don't have enough people to do the jobs. And so you can absolutely position IoT as, I'm filling these gaps, these employee gaps for you using sensors and connectivity, blah, blah, blah. Even if you didn't do any analytics, even if you didn't do AI, you are still replacing because all those folks were doing is looking, writing, transcribing into the deal to the system of record. Well, that's all you're going to do with IoT. Sensors grabbing, sending, and inserting into the database tables of your system of record.
Yeah, and I think the first order of value for IoT to the business that implements it, not the vendors, is number one, cost reduction of some sort, and then risk mitigation or reduction. Those are the two things. There used to be all this talk about, you're going to gather all this data, and you can monetize it, and you can create new business models, blah, blah, blah.
Stop.
Guess what? That really didn't happen, and that detracted from that 90% of value a business can get out of IoT. Right. And then the rest of the narrative, which everyone focused on and created forecasts for, was the nonsense, right? The silly crap. So, I think a lot of folks in the IoT community lost sight of what the real value was, and that's the true tragedy of a lot of this misinterpretation or misguided perspectives on the opportunity, right? But the practitioners today, I mean, if you really want to talk about value, talk about that. It's like, how do you mitigate risk? How do you reduce cost? And then be able to articulate that in the context of your customer's business, and then you're going to be okay. But usually that becomes a ROI conversation, right? What is return on value, right?
Get to return on investment within 3 months. That's what we tell folks. It's like, and just don't be fancy about it. Get to the basics and start there, right?
Yeah.
You're dead on.
And then
So an IoT company has to have the courage to just come out and say, we're here and we're going to do this basic stuff. And it doesn't sound sexy. Marc Poos had a brilliant thethings.io company that did it accomplish that mission? Absolutely it did. Eric's company, does it accomplish that? Absolutely did. Can you get all this other stuff too? Sure. But do you have the courage to market and go to market saying, actually, we're just going to do this and it's going to save you money because you're not going to do that? And that should be enough, because I always tell people to get the hell out of Silicon Valley and Seattle and go to Omaha, Nebraska, go to Oklahoma City, go to St. Louis. Go talk to real folks trying to do their real job every day. As soon as you start talking about, you're going to need some AI blended in with this thing to get any value. And they're just like, like, I'm just running a natural gas pipeline here, bro.
That's exactly it. You're in West Texas and you got to be dodging spiders and looking at pumps. And you mentioned AI and you're not going to get invited to the bar with them.
Well, here's the thing. Right. The value of AI actually is being expressed in the sensors. So your perception capabilities are going to become greater, right? Whether it's at a single node or multi-node nodes of perception, those can be different devices that are sensing stuff in an environment. All the analytics stuff that I think you know what? If someone sits there and tells you, hey, we have this wonderful AI thing and it's all this analytics and you can use a large language model to interpret all the data coming in. You know what?
I'll tell you.
Tell them to go away.
Yeah. I'll tell you, I like the old school analytics company. I'll be honest, I'm a little biased. It's SAS Institute. They're old school and they're like the OG of AI and they get it done. I mean, they're not out there screaming all this sexy stuff. They're just like, hey, we do this and we've been doing it for decades.
Yes.
Since 76.
Yeah,
and I think they're kind of one of the ones that are overlooked a little bit. It's like don't underestimate the power of that company.
Shame. They are overlooked. Yeah. One of the discoveries we had when I was at Hitachi and we were building our Lumada thing was, and you're talking to customers and everything, because obviously we had plans to build all this cool AI and analytics stuff. And Eric and Marc may have stumbled upon this a bunch too. A whole lot of the giant companies we were talking to, they said, we already have analytics. We've already spent $10 million on an analytics package. Just give me the APIs to glue my analytics to your IoT thing, and we're good.
Stream me the data.
I saw that over and over and over again. It's like we already got that because we were using analytics for other parts of our business already anywhere.
Yeah. Be
Make
open.
It easy.
Yeah, just play nice with others. I say simple stuff like your software is great, my software is great. Let's just share the data and move it to where it needs to go. It's that simple.
Until this customer says, yeah, sure, send me the data to this REST API, and then it just falls down all the cat.
It falls apart. They have to have modern ways to receive the data.
They don't scale. They don't.
But
that's another story.
But you're doing your part. As long as you're doing your part, and then they can fix the other parts.
You go to lots of companies over the years, and the way they're transferring data is these guys are FTPing batch data that lands on this hard drive.
Yeah. I got it.
You need, and so I guess you need to be flexible. Your interface with that isn't going to be some fancy because most companies aren't.
Yeah,
it might be.
You got to read that 5 1/4 inch floppy sneaker net.
Maybe they use it.
Punched cards.
Yeah, punch cards.
My card.
That's awesome, guys.
Who has a punch card reader here?
I don't have one. No,
I had one, but a long time ago. But
I used one, but I didn't have one. I was in high school.
Okay. I'm too young. I'm Gen Z. I don't even know what you guys are talking about. What is punch cards? What?
Yeah.
What?
When I worked at IBM, we used them as note taking because I had so many extra. No one used them anymore, so you're just there to take notes on them.
Your parents raised you with money that was processed on punch cards.
Yes.
And somehow it worked.
Yes.
And without any advanced fancy anything. It just somehow they work. I don't know how we did it.
And talking about digital transformation, the backend is still the same. It's just that it's a web front end.
Don't get me. Yeah.
Don't get me
started. Good old COBOL still runs a lot of the world.
Okay, guys.
All of us. That's what all of us are going to be doing. Our next jobs. We're all going to do COBOL.
You'll make bank. You will make bank per hour.
Because we are the space cowboys of COBOL.
You need a COBOL co-pilot. That's what you need.
Good idea.
Co-pilot.
It probably is,
guys. All right, who's going to take us out? All right, I will. Oh, you want to do it? Go ahead.
No, I thought Marc should do it.
I think so too. Do it in Spanish.
Yes, Espanol.
Yeah, because we're an international show. Come on.
No. Now it's getting very, very loud here. Please do it yourself. I will do the next one.
We can hear you fine, so just talk. Come on. Your noise cancellation is awesome. Come on.
Yeah, we can't hear it.
Yeah, it's good.
Yeah, I missed half of the part of the conversation, but we went to to talk about everything and nothing, right? From generative AI to profitable companies to sustainable companies, and something that we didn't mention, but basically everything it's thanks to the machine to machine. So
Yes.
if you watch this, just say something on the comments, like this video, and get some of our goodies that we sell. All goes to what's the name of the?
Oh my God!
Elevate Our Kids.
Elevate Our Kids. Yeah, sure. Yes, indeed. Yeah, our non-profit.
What's Elevate Our Kids in Spanish?
Elevate Our Kids.
Eleva a nuestros niños, or something like that.
Okay.
I knew that Niños were going to be in there somewhere.
Niños.
Yeah.
Yeah, we could have done that with basic Spanish, but okay, go ahead.
Yeah. So yeah, thanks for watching, and see you next week to talk about some serious stuff.
Okay.
Adios.
Thanks.
Adios.
All right. Take care, guys.
Adios.
Bye.
Adios. Thanks, guys. All right. It was fun.
Bye-bye.
Bye.